Huge breaking news on this Sunday evening. The Illini receive a commitment from four-star quarterback Kamden Lopati. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to this live edition. That's right, live. I haven't done one of these live episodes in a very, very long time. But the truth is, about an hour ago, I finished recording Monday's episode. But news like this is just too big to wait for 48 hours for me to release an episode on Tuesday. So I just want to talk about what's going on right now. Illinois just landed a complete shocker. I mean, this is not something that I thought was going to happen. Let's just get into it, right? Let's just talk about the name. Top 200 in his class, 2027 quarterback, Kamden Lopati, a four-star composite, has committed to the Illini. And remember that name because this kid genuinely has all the tools that could become a big part of the defining future of the Illini. So let's start here. If you're unfamiliar with him, I've been doing a little research just to catch up, just for this quick rapid reaction episode. I'm going to have Brian Smith from Locked On Portal on later this week to go more in depth. But so Lopati is a 2027 four-star quarterback, which means, he's still got a couple of high school seasons left before he ever steps foot in Champaign. But let me tell you something. It's not too early to get excited. In fact, this might be the exact right time to start paying attention. Because Lopati doesn't look like he's just another early pledge. This is a top 25 national quarterback, the number one quarterback in Utah, and arguably the best player Illinois has landed this early in the cycle. We're talking about a 6'3", 215-pound signal caller with a linebacker's build, running back's explosiveness. But he also happens to be a really gifted pure passer, one of the best in his class. Illinois has been trying to land a game-changing quarterback to lead its future, and I think with Lopati, they may have found it. And I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm notoriously bad with that, but let's just be honest. This means like the commitment also signals that Illinois continues to be ahead of the game. This is a 2027 cycle quarterback. Getting a kid like this early, it continues to open the doors. It continues. Illini football just constantly sends a message out, and it gives the Illini a legit foundation to build around for the next 2 years. We know Bret Bielema, when it comes to his first commitment of any class, he wants that guy to be the star. He always wants a huge name because he just figures that gets the ball rolling even with more positive momentum. And so that's kind of the reasons, like he always waits for a guy who could be the headliner of the class to be the first guy to commit, to get that energy popping. So let's talk about Lopati a little bit because he very well could be that guy. He's entering his junior year in West High School in Salt Lake City. But take a look at his sophomore stats. 66.8% completion rate. Over 3,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. And get this, 650 rushing yards to go along with that. Again, this is a quarterback who Camden has a really good relationship with Art. And it's his he's mentioned Art Sikowski in essentially every interview he's had, especially when it comes to Illinois, which is comforting. Because real talk, if you're an Illini football fan and you're paying close attention, there's a chance that with another successful season, Barry Lundy Jr. is not going to be the offensive coordinator next year. I mean, in an ideal situation, I would even argue he's not going to be an Illini next year. You want to have Illinois to have a good, solid offense next year, perform really well, win 9, 10, 11 games, and Barry goes off to sunset and has his own head coaching job somewhere. With that, though, especially with the quarterback position, you tend to be worried, like, is the quarterback going to follow him? But with Camden having such an important relationship with Art, maybe it's just keeping Art. And that's a guy you can keep in-house and maybe not risking what could be the crown jewel of this recruiting class, this 2027 recruiting class. Because, again, this is not just a productive quarterback. He's got dominant stats, and he's doing it with poise, intelligence, and control that even upperclassmen don't have. And he's not just a raw athlete either. Mechanics look clean from what I've seen. Arm strength looks elite, and he processes defenses like an upperclassman. But overall, again, when it comes to deep diving, I'll do that later with Brian Smith, because this means you can look beyond a stat sheet when it comes to Camden. Camden is widely described as mature beyond his years, a true leader on the field, in the locker room, and off of it. His coaches rave about his work ethic, his decision-making, and his ability to lift the players around him. Guys, 3.8 GPA, very coachable. Seems to be a student of the game. It's the kind of quarterback who doesn't have to rely on just talent. He does the little things. He knows to study tape, seek out mentorship, and just actively craft properly his future at the position. And here's something else that you don't always hear about. On Illinois' visit, Cam toured the university's veterinarian school. I just saw that. Look, I'm an animal lover, so that immediately that endears me to Camden. But, if that's what he wants to major in, that's not exactly a very easy major. And that also just shows you that combined with this 3.8 GPA, it's an empty GPA. This is a kid who challenges himself not just on the field, but off of it. And this is where it gets exciting, because Illinois is clearly shifting now with their recruiting, their quarterback recruiting in particular. And Lopati, he can fit right in with this evolving identity. A dual threat quarterback who can command the field with his arm and punish defenses with his legs. He can force defensive coordinators to respect every inch of the field, create spacing, stresses coverages, and it gives offensive coordinators a real true weapon to deal with. Because let's be real, Illinois hasn't had many quarterbacks, I'd argue any, that have had this combination of tools and ceiling. Lopati projects as someone who could eventually start multiple seasons in the Big Ten. And if things break right, who knows, potentially play on Sunday. Let me remind you again, this isn't just a good player. This is someone who could become one of the most important quarterbacks in Illini history. So let's zoom out real quick before I get to your guys' comments. Landing a cornerstone quarterback this early gives Illinois an enormous edge in shaping their 2027 recruiting class. Think about it. Camden now can become a recruiter himself. That's huge, helping attract top talent from across the country who want to play with a guy like him. That's actually how winning programs do it. When you have that anchor, that star quarterback, wide receivers want to catch the ball from him. Offensive linemen want to block for him. They got the quarterback locked in early. They can sell that vision now. And they can use that vision to pull in receivers, linemen, running backs, you name it. Kamden Lopati is now the face of the future of Illini football. And that's going to change how recruits, fans, and even national media are going to perceive the program. Of course, I'm not saying Camden is a finished product by any stretch of the mean. He obviously still has areas to grow. Reading some scouting reports, he's got to refine his deep ball timing. Sometimes he trusts that big arm a little bit too much. He can improve his pocket discipline, especially when facing high-end pressure. And he's going to have to adjust to college speed, which, of course, that's kind of universal. But guess what? A lot of those are universal, right? They seem to be kind of minor concerns, and they're common even among senior prospects. The tools, which are most important, those are there. And I'd argue even more important, the intelligence seems to be there. And I think the drive to improve is going to be there. So Kamden Lopati committing to Illinois isn't just a headline. This could be a huge milestone. It means the staff is winning important recruiting battles. Guys, Oregon wanted Camden. Arkansas wanted Camden. Washington wanted Camden. And according to Jason Ron from my Discord, Purdue really, really wanted him. By the way, there should be a link to the Discord where we talk Illini sports all day, every day. It should be in the description. Let me know if it's not. getting a guy like this shows belief in the direction that Bret Bielema is taking this program. It means Illinois is no longer waiting to see how things shake out. They're up front. They're dictating their own future. And when you start with a quarterback who has everything you can ask for, the arm, the legs, the brain, the heart, that's how you start a 2027 class. So let's all remember the name, Kamden Lopati. If his development stays on its current trajectory, there's a real chance he becomes a centerpiece at Memorial Stadium. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm going to get to them right after this. Again, Camden, those are my initial thoughts. He's a kid that I just finished recording tomorrow's episode, which is great. I kind of focus a little bit on basketball, but Bret Bielema sends that message, that Bert signal at it was 8:30 on Sunday evening. And so I felt like I had to come on and talk about that a little bit with you guys. So let's hear your guys' thoughts. All right. Speaking of which, looks like I didn't change that background, did I? All right. Some of you guys' thoughts. Again, I haven't done this for a while. Okay. Thick Boy Tuna. Thick Boy's also in our Discord. Says, what a recruiting win for us. Micah says this is still nuts. Utah. You're right, Micah. It's just, it shows how national this program is. We're talking about the West Coast, Utah, Art Sikowski for the absolute win here. And Jason, as he mentioned earlier, as I mentioned on the show, it's always nice to see Purdue fans upset. Basketball side, of course, but even on the football side, Bret really is making me feel stupid for being disappointed in his hire. It's not just you. I've said this on the show constantly, that when he was the guy, I was not happy. He was probably third on my list, but he won me over as soon as he had that introductory press conference. I watched it. I listened to him. I listened to the words he said. I was like, you know what? This guy gets it. And he knows what it takes to win at Illinois, which I think some of the previous coaches didn't. It takes a different kind of mindset to win in Champaign. And Bret Bielema convinced me he had it then, and 4 years later has not convinced me otherwise. 51 people in here watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, if you don't mind, hit that like button. It's the off season. I haven't done a live episode since the season ended. But you know what? I don't mind. If there's more love for these live episodes, I'll absolutely do it. Bulls Guy says, this is so crazy. I know. On a Sunday evening, Jason says, this one's Art Sikowski, killing it on the trail. He is. He's a future superstar on the coaching staff, not just ours. Like, that guy, I think, is going to be a head coach someplace at some point. And, that risk he took, I guess you can say, of deciding to retire early from playing college football into transitioning to the coaching side, it looks like it was a really good move on his behalf. Because, again, I know Bret loves him. And Bret is going to do everything in his power to make sure that Art doesn't go anywhere else in the near future. Check it out. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. He says, great news. It also means we will need a transition quarterback after Luke graduates. Yeah, I mean, that's just one of those, we'll see, right? We've got Luke hopefully all year this year. And then after that, who knows? We've got some guys there. We've got Trey Petty, Michael Clayton. But I genuinely think when you talk about the quarterback position that they're going to inquire in that transfer portal. They're going to see what other kind of talents are there. This quarterback's room is the best it's been in a decade? More than a decade. And so really, I think at this point, like, whatever option we end up going with, we'll be okay with. But I just don't know if Bret's going to trust a younger quarterback right off the bat, especially if he can find a veteran one. And if the younger quarterback beats the veteran transfer quarterback, so be it. But I do think that there's a potential that next year's quarterback isn't currently on the roster today. Jason says he has a brother who's a stud offensive tackle also. Titus Lopati, absolutely right, Jason. And Jay says, let's go. Yeah, again, this is great news. This is fantastic news for the Illini. This is how you start the 2027 class, right? I said this again. A lot of you reach out to me asking me, about the recruiting cycle in 2026. What other guys are they after, et cetera, et cetera. And I say, look, we've got 20 plus guys already. Right now, the benefits of that is that, while you continue to maintain relationships with the guys you have committed, this also gives you the opportunity to start making relationships and building relationships with future classes. And that's exactly what this is a prime example of. You're talking about a quarterback who, again, is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the class. A lot of Illini fans, of course, understandably upset about losing out on Trey Taylor earlier. But you know what? This kid could be just as good, if not better, than Trey. And again, it's just Bret, I'm repeating myself, but a guy who just understands how to do things the right way. And I think I'm just going to wrap it up there. Again, I'm going to have a more in-depth scouting report with the Football Scout, because I think that's what you guys come on here for. But please, on your way out, make sure you hit that like button. Man, what a way to kick off unofficial college football season, right? To me, it started last week at Big Ten Media Days, which, by the way, thank you all so much for sending me. It's your support for the channel, the fact that this channel is growing so fast. By the way, my goal is to hit 4,000 subs. So if this is your first time tuning in onto Locked On Illini, please make sure you hit the sub button. The everydayers in here will tell you that I do these episodes every single day, regardless of whether it's the off season. You're going to have 30 minutes of Illini content. So that's going to wrap it up for today. There's a new episode coming tomorrow morning where I talk about another potential 4-star committing to the Illini, but on the basketball side. So stay tuned to that. Thank you all so much. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.